Alexander, hi. Sideways was an awesome movie. Tell us something about making Sideways. I don't know. What's Bulgy amount you really like?
What's that? It was, it was really fun. It was, I moved to Santa Barbara County from June to December of 2003 for the shooting. It's been a while ago. And it was just, I don't have any fun anecdotes that I can think about, man. It was just a lot of fun, and we drank a lot of wine. And one thing is that I like Merlot. It's just a joke. No, but like for example, the prop master, anything that an actor touches goes under props, including food and wine. And so usually in movies, the color of wine is all wrong. I mean, they'll have a stupid amber for any white wine, and just too light red. Like it doesn't look like, it looks like cranberry juice for.
It drives you crazy, huh?
It does. In this movie, Syrah had to look like Syrah, and Pinot had to look like Pinot, and Chardonnay had, so on down the line. But to concoct those things, which had the right color, but then which the actors drank, often it tasted bad. It was a combination of cranberry with prune. So after a while, the actors just said, "Screw it, give me the real stuff." So we were, about half the time on screen, the actors were genuinely sloshed. What the hell? We didn't have that much dialogue.
That's why it was so real. And I could relate.
Oh, just real quick about negative campaigning, Obama had a good line, which is, "I won't throw the first punch, but I'll throw the last."
It's a good method.
My name is Jane West, and I used to be in daily TV news, and I'm now out of that, but I've really been curious about what it's been like the last few weeks at a network in terms of making decisions about how to cover things with what's going on with both the election and the economy, and it's changing so quickly. What is it like in the news?
There hasn't been a slow news period in my work since 9/11. And before 9/11, there were days when we'd come in and say, what are we going to do in our newscast today that will actually be relevant to people across the country? It's never been a problem since 9/11. Now, you're right. I mean, the speed at which there's two challenges. One is the story is moving so quickly, and the second is to make it relevant and make it and tell it in a way that is informing and interesting to viewers. A lot of people of our viewers who would not be totally well read into what happens on Wall Street and how to bring that back to their lives. It's just one of those stories that you get caught up with, and events take you. And there's not. I mean, look, there's 18 minutes of editorial time in the newscast, and tonight's newscast, I looked at the whole broadcast, except for two political stories, is on the economy. It's just taken us, as I think as news organizations generally never use newspapers, we've all cut back our editorial staffs. So we actually aren't as well equipped to cover this story or any story, frankly, as we have been in the past. So it's just a real challenge.
The last time you laughed so hard that you cried, and what was it that made you laugh that hard?
Might have been the day McCain announced his choice. That was the day that I cried so hard I laughed.
She's good for comedy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to take that?
Watching Jon Stewart every night makes me laugh out loud. And that show and Steve Colbert is genius. And together with Alexander's movies, those that are heady, interesting, and real. And I just saw Religulous, Bill Maher's piece. It's just brilliant. I mean, it just, go see it.
I have to admit, as a journalist, when I watch Jon Stewart, I say, did that really happen today? And I what asked directly to Jocelyn what she sees as the future in terms of cancer research, breast cancer, research ovarian cancer, anything on the horizon.
Well, I think, it's been this way for probably the last 10 or 20 years. There's been a huge push for more awareness, and I think that's the biggest thing, is that so many people are more aware. I think every October, and this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I think there's a huge push every year, but it's been that way for the last 10 years or so. So offices, most of our offices are flooded in October, November, December, January, and I think that's great. So people, know more about it. I think women are willing to talk to each other. There's a lot more community efforts. There's this nonprofit I work with is Community Breast Health Project. Now it's Breast Cancer Connections, but it's a complete community effort. There's hundreds of volunteers that work. I think people are much more, women are just much more open about talking about it. I think it's great that celebrities, the Christina Applegate thing, I thought it was great. She was so open about it that it makes everyone more apt to talk about it. It's more in the news. So I think that's one big thing is awareness. Other thing is, I think there's some interesting things going on with genetic testing. That only affects a very small portion of the population, but I think genetic testing is also something that's on the horizon that's new. There's a lot of interesting research, things with drugs, different therapies, there's a lot of genetic testing for the tumor itself. It's kind of exciting on how to target different therapies to specific genes with certain tumors. So all that stuff, is actually kind of new and interesting. The actual practice of what we do on a day-to-day basis for treating breast cancer hasn't changed a lot over the past 10 years or so. Little things, different treatments, different drugs, different, different recipes for how to treat. But I think all those things, I think just the fact that there's so much interest in it. I think that if you're looking for a grant to do research, breast cancer is one of the, highest funded fields, which is great, because it wasn't before. So I think it's really positive.
What courses did you not take at Stanford?
Finance.
I really wish I'd taken philosophy.
Or English. Jocelyn and I were talking about, in high school now there's like 5 AP classes you could take a year, and I took an AP class and didn't take English here when we had the best English teachers. And so, I rethinking that and thought, they're small, they're fabulous English teachers. I wish I'd done them.
Remember, I took an English class here my senior year. It was a Shakespeare class with Dr. Friedlander, and I laughed so hard, I cried, and I actually got kicked out of the class. I could not stop laughing. He asked me to stop laughing. I could not stop. I was laying on the floor. I actually had to leave. The greatest class.
A young guy comes to you today and says, I want to make movies. What do you tell them? And what would you say would be the single biggest challenge to that dream coming true for a young person today?
Tell him he's got his head ready.
They're doing it. You just look on the internet now. That's the biggest, change that has happened. And kids out there with little cameras and an internet connection are making some really fun, interesting things. So they just have to get out there and do it. Just buy a little camera and learn how to upload it. Look at YouTube, what a phenomenon that is. And that in itself has propelled a lot of new talent. Agencies now, William Morris Agency has the internet group. And what they do is just comb through all that stuff for people who have interesting voices, so it's easy to do it. The biggest challenge always is, then what do you do? How do you get that in front of the people that really matter? And that's being aggressive, and that's really being passionate about your work, and it will get in the center. It will get in the right hands.
But it's a big jump from a YouTube video to a feature film.
It's not. You you guys got drunk on the side. Gave away the secret to that movie. Well, you have to, if you're a writer, then you write. It's just that simple, and you have to just keep on doing it. And there's things you have to do, go to film school, but people are making short films for no money. And that's just hard to do, you have to have that passion.
This is where I become a version of my parents and give old fuddy-duddy advice, which is, you can learn how to make a film in a week. The point is, what do you shoot? And that's where a background in literature and the classics and history. It's not a must, but the telling of the human story, that's...
Yeah, there's just various ways there's a million ways a story can be told, whether that be, something that you learn from the written word or just something you instinctually have. There are filmmakers out there that just guerrilla filmmaking, and they come up with some real interesting things. So they just have to do it, in other words.
But you worked at HBO and cable. Is there an entry into that? I mean, is it that? YouTube is a real democratizing medium in a lot of ways. How do you get to that sort of through that corporate gate? I guess challenge, right? Either.
I believe that talent finds a way. I'm talented, but I know when to see my stuff. I don't know. I do believe in that meritocracy because I've seen it again and again. That people who are talented not only need to push themselves, they get found.
And that goes.
Others wish to exploit them.
Right. Well, that goes hand in hand with
Exploiters are on the prowl.
That goes hand in hand with having a passion for it, and whether people agree with your point of view or not. Maybe someone will, and then there's just various degrees of that, whether it's commercial, whether it's avant-garde, whether it's fiction. But you just have to keep on doing it, and then as Alexander said, it will get in the right hands.
With Alexander, in your movie Election, you focused on a teacher. And people ask me, did you know this director? Because he's talking about our job. I represent Mr. McAllister, basically. And I would have gotten him a better deal than you had him resign. How much of that was from the novel, and how were you able to get a teacher who, his friend had an affair with a student, and that teacher was he was likable in spite of his obvious flaws. How were you able to, how much of that was from your own personal inspiration, or that you done? How much of that came from you as opposed to the novel?
First of all, I will take the opportunity to brag and name drop that Barack Obama told me that's his favorite political movie.
Yeah.
No, it's just fiction. It's from a book.
The whole thing,
Yeah, it's freely adapted, but faithful to the novel on which it's based. But a lot of it came. I have friends back in Omaha who are high school teachers. I don't know, just kind of make it up.
And Megan, working in the public service field and a lot of respect for what you do, what is your inspiration for every day staying on this path and doing what you do?
The kids and the people I am honored to work with, I can't tell you. It's foster parents who would just take pretty much damage from in utero kids into their homes, and the things that they, put up with, and the hanging in there. I think that's the key. The hanging in there over time. See the kids heal, and the beauty of it is that then the next generation, they're not abusing their kids, and they're not stellar parents. I have one kid who drops the F-bomb all the time, and he called me up and said, he's a night banker. He goes, Megan, I see your paycheck go through it. I'm making more than you. And he's not. But he's not ever going to be dad of the year, but he stays home with his kid, and it's like 4 generations of abuse in his family. So that all of them are graduating from high school, some of them are going to college. It's just the real life, and what I see these parents who take these kids and do, I just admire them from my heart every night. So that's the payoff, and then my own kids get to see this kind of the thing and the ripple effect that it has. I think learning. I want to say to the teacher, the person who profoundly affected me the most was my high school history teacher, and it was just one comment. He was a little off guard. He was a little scary for me because he was so sarcastic. But he said, when we were learning about Hitler, he said, when you start out, people would stand by and not do anything. He said, you either are part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And truly, from that moment on, I tried to teach that to my own kids, and so that they stand up and other kids stand up. But that's one thing that, and I've never had, I've never seen them since, but Mr. Heaton, I'll never forget. And that affected my entire life, that one thing a teacher said to me. So I just wanted to say kudos to you.
I want to thank everybody. Thank all of you for your questions and listening to us, and thank all of our panelists, and especially thank Susie and Randy for this panel. Thank you all very much.